Welcome to the Insider's Insight podcast, where we share with you the thoughts of the individuals who are working for projects that are changing the world. Welcome to Insider's Insight. Today I have a very special guest. I have Tae Oh, who is the founder of Gluwa and the founder of Creditcoin. Today our conversation is going to be about bringing financial services to those who are unbanked. To start off, Tae, maybe you can talk about your journey into getting into crypto, and then how did you go about starting Gluwa and Creditcoin?
Oh, thanks for the introduction, Sean. Is that the right way to pronounce your name? Sorry, I should have asked earlier.
Yeah. It's perfect.
Got it. Thanks for the intro, Sean. So I guess I will first explain how I fell in love with crypto, or how I got introduced to crypto, and then how I ended up founding Gluwa and Creditcoin. So I got introduced to Bitcoin while I was still in college. That was year 2010. So our college had a computer lab like everywhere. Being Carnegie Mellon, we had more computers than people at the campus. And what we usually do is we chill around the computer lab doing our homework and whatnot, and like talk to other people naturally about whatever. And Bitcoin was one of the hot subjects for a couple weeks when I was like about a year before me graduating. So anyway, that's how I got introduced to Bitcoin, and it was fascinating. But I couldn't really tell why it was a very important or a cool idea. I just got that vibe of this is very important, like technology or a thing that's gonna change a lot of different stuff. After a few years later, after me working with this technology for a while and working in web technology in general, I've summarized this into this. So I have summarized this experience into this. So I think what people went through with the digital evolution is this. So from the invention of a computer, especially a personal computer, people were able to automate their work. You write down a program and the computer will repeat it for you over and over without saying no, as long as it has power. So that's the introduction of automation. And with the invention of the internet, now people were able to work with each other. So me, currently sitting somewhere in Seoul, can talk to you currently somewhere in China. And everyone anywhere can work with each other. So that was another fundamental change. And more recently, from the invention of a smartphone, now we were able to work anywhere we go. So we were always connected. We were always holding this computer device, which we can use to do our work or whatever. And that was another fundamental change. Blockchain or Bitcoin is very important to the human civilization, because for the first time in digital world, it introduced the concept of objectivity. Because before Bitcoin and its blockchain technology, there was no way for us to have an objective information on a computer. Because if you write something in or on a digital format, it is always changeable. So people can change it or people can copy it, and there's no solid way to actually tell if this is an original or not, or there is no original at all. So from using a decentralized ledger concept, for the first time in our history, we could have an objective information and objectivity of what actually happened. So now we know for sure what work we have done. And based on this understanding, I have been developing my company Gluwa and one of its technology, Creditcoin.
How did you, so you said you got introduced to Bitcoin in 2010, and then when did you really start to either invest in it or really think about it being the industry you wanted to work in?
So after graduating from college, I was actually supposed to go to a law school. I took LSAT, applied, got in, and I was waiting for the semester to get started. But because I graduated in December, I had about like 6 month gap between my graduation and the starting of the law school. So during that 6 month, I actually had been tinkering a lot with technology, including Bitcoin. And for no good reason, I have decided that I can come up with something valuable within this field. So that's how I ended up actually starting this company, Gluwa.
What year was this?
Year was around 2012. So I incorporated in 2012, but the tinkering was around 2011.
2011. So you started in 2012. It's you guys have been around for a very long time.
Yeah, Gluwa has been around for about 10 years, slightly less than 10 years now.
So what was the main objective of Gluwa when you first created it?
So when I first created Gluwa, I was first trying to build a borderless social commerce platform, and allow me to explain what I wanted to build. So imagine an Instagram where you can post pictures and tag the products that you are wearing or holding, and other people can get inspired from what you have or what you wear. And by clicking on your tag, immediately get linked to like Amazon link and then buy from it. And whenever people buy, you get a piece of that. Because I was imagining that we can build something borderless using Bitcoin, I ended up building like a very rough version of Instagram / Shopify, accepting Bitcoin payments.
I see. So that was the initial idea, and you managed to raise funds for this?
I managed to raise funds for this, but particularly I managed to raise funds for the Bitcoin payment part. I posted what I was building on AngelList back then, and it was around 2016. I got contacted by 500 startups via email. They were asking, oh, hey, what you guys are building is quite interesting. Can you explain more? And that was my first call with them. And after the second call, I got accepted to their batch program. And then that was our first check ever.
Oh, okay. So it was a lot of grinding because you started in 2012. So, it was about 4 years before you got noticed by an investor.
Right. We tried to make something and raise funds for a couple times too. But back then, even in 2016, whenever you say Bitcoin or blockchain, people were kind of scared off, especially VCs. In 2016, I remember a lot of VCs in the Valley or in South Korea thought Bitcoin was a thing that happened like 2-3 years ago, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to last. So that's what they were basically thinking. And I was heavily investing in for the fact that Bitcoin will actually get big. And that's why I couldn't really raise or get any traction from in terms of fundraising. But I was able to sustain the business by doing the commerce part of it. And we were around break even for a couple of years before getting our first check.
Wow, that's amazing. That's not only does it show your dedication, but I guess it also proved your thesis because, Bitcoin is far more valuable than it was in 2016, 2015, 2014. So kind of proved your conviction to be in this space. Now, in 2017, the bull run happened. And did you then pivot into Creditcoin, or, what was your aha moment that made you think, okay, I'm going to now try to create Creditcoin?
So while we were going through 500 Startups batch program, we got introduced to other batch mates. The other companies got their check from 500 Startups and going through their program. There was this company called Ella that was from Nigeria, doing a lending business. So they are essentially, we lend you money via mobile company. And it was really interesting for me because on paper, the company was doing really well. They had over 200,000 users. Their loan book was a couple $million already, and their default rate was less than 5% back then. And they were able to generate a couple hundred thousands of revenue already. So on paper, it was amazing. But their problem was all their data, all their transactions were happening outside of banking infrastructure. So all their users who are unbanked or underbanked are not generating any creditworthy history. So they had no credit profile to the eyes of the banks. Their users were nobody essentially, and no credit profile. And because their user or their data is not creditworthy, they couldn't lend money from the financial institutions too. And after learning about this, we realized this is actually a perfect problem for a blockchain to solve, because the problem was the subjectivity of information. And public blockchain is a technology, like I said before, to bring objectivity of information that is verifiable to anyone. So we sat down together, Ella and Gluwa sat down together, learning about their business model, business flow, and dissected their lending business and came up with Creditcoin. And yeah, the rest is history. We built it, launched it, and distributing to Ella's users and more.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so yes, that's how you started Creditcoin. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Let me move on to, the problem that you were trying to solve with Creditcoin. Maybe you could give a bit more details about why you saw it as such an intriguing value proposition.
Right. So if you think about it, most of our financial day-to-day or general financial transaction that retails make are actually a credit transaction. It's a simple example is our credit cards. We usually make our purchase with credit card, buying coffee, grocery shopping, or whatnot. Everything is a credit transaction. Even if you are using a debit transaction using your, for example, debit card, behind the scene, there are actually credit transaction going on. For instance, when you make a purchase with Visa, for a short period of time, Visa is guaranteeing to the merchant that they will get their money off this purchase. So there's a bit of a credit aspect there. And without all these, we all have to carry our cash making payments, which is already a burden. But the core problem is financially, you are pretty much nobody without your credit profile. For a bank, you being a person matters not that much unless you start building a relationship and credit history with the financial institution. Based on that, based on what you have and your history, now you are mapping yourself on the landscape of finance and become somebody that means something to other players in the market. Without that, without people who doesn't have that, uncredited people, unbanked or underbanked, are essentially never going to get their for financial services that they require to start building their businesses and livelihood and uplift themselves from poverty to a betterment that can support themselves and their family and so on and so forth. So this is a fundamental access feature or service that everyone has to have access to, and a very important problem that the blockchain technology can actually solve. So I was very convinced that this is an important thing for us to do, not only financially, but also something that means a lot to very many people.
So Creditcoin, it derives its value from keeping these records on the blockchain? Is that how it works?
So the concept of Creditcoin is essentially this. So Creditcoin blockchain is built to record your credit transactions. So when you want to borrow something and borrows that money, get connected to the lender, you borrowing money from whom for what term gets recorded on the Creditcoin. You repaying that money on what date, what amount gets also recorded to the blockchain. You missing the payment or paying something early or a bit late, all of that is objectively recorded on to the Creditcoin network. So when that happens, it becomes you accumulate a very clean history of your credit transactions, which will serve as a very important part of your credit profile.
And how does privacy play a part? So I'm assuming is this data available to all, or is there a mechanism that basically allows this data only be seen to those who need to see it?
Very similar to how Bitcoin works. Me knowing your Bitcoin address does not. So exposing your address does not expose you as a personally identifiable information. Your address and you are separate unless you prove that address belongs to you by signing it or sending somebody money from it. So Creditcoin is the same. So when you have an address on Creditcoin, that address is not associated with you unless you prove that address is owned by you. So it's up to your choice. So you can actually use that address off chain by proving that your ownership of that address and use it.
I see. And when you write data onto this blockchain, that uses up the token as gas. Is that how it works?
Right. The token works as a utility token that you use to pay the fee to write anything onto the blockchain.
Okay. And are there miners that are involved, or is it all staking based?
Our consensus algo is proof of work. So there are miners. We currently have over 2,000 plus nodes working on the network. And our mining community is pretty alive and very active for a reason that's beyond my understanding. I was never an active miner, so I don't really understand the psychology of miner. But there are a lot of people who are actively mining and who are actively upgrading their nodes as we release our a new version. And for instance, our next version of Creditcoin is coming, Creditcoin 2.0. And for that, we are preparing to run a testnet for Creditcoin 2.0. And now we have about 200 people registered to participate as a testnet miner.
I think what's really interesting about your project is that obviously running the network, Creditcoin itself has a value, right? Because it's securing this information that's allowing individuals that don't have a credit report to basically have financial history. You could potentially see one day in the history where the token itself could be currency. And then if that happens, how would that fit into the base case for Creditcoin? If Creditcoin becomes currency, you use Creditcoin to lend and to borrow. Have you thought about that future?
Actually, yeah. So people were discussing this idea of, for example, if you are running a lending business, you need a lot of Creditcoin because you have to write a lot on top of Creditcoin. And at that point, you have two choices. You can either buy some Creditcoin and spend it. Another option is to borrow Creditcoin from other people and then spend it. And after a year or two, you repay them with interest. The latter can be worked as a staking model for Creditcoin holders. So that's why the community is more interested on that route. And to me, Creditcoin being a currency is, I guess, a side effect, more of a side effect than the design objective of Creditcoin itself. I'm not against it. I think that would be a very cool thing to happen. I would like to see it. But I guess that's kind of like using for, let's say, what would be a good example? So let's say crude oil is very valuable because everybody uses it. It can be used as a currency. You can trade, let's say, semiconductor for crude oil. That's also possible. But it's not the main purpose of crude oil. I think that's how I kind of feel. It's possible, but not like that what we are aiming for.
Where do you see the direction unbanked people are going? The current use case for your coin is obviously to build a credit history for fiat loans and fiat savings for those unbanked. But there is another narrative, which is that perhaps we won't have to ever use fiat anymore because cryptocurrencies will end up ruling the world. And in that case, where does Creditcoin fit in that kind of realm? Do you believe that's going to happen? Or do you think Creditcoin will evolve to do something else?
So that's a two-part question. Do I believe crypto will dominate and make fiat obsolete is the first question. And number two is, how would Creditcoin work in that kind of future? So I'll answer the first question. I don't see I don't think that will happen in any foreseeable future. I think people will still love fiat. I think people will still use fiat. I have nothing against the future where, for instance, let's say Bitcoin is the key currency and USD becoming sort of a side chain of Bitcoin. I'm pretty fine. I'm pretty happy with that. But I don't see that happening because I don't really see any plausible route that's going to happen anytime soon. But let's assume that happens. Let's assume Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana or whatever is the day-to-day currency, and where would Creditcoin fit in that case? Well, Creditcoin supports any blockchain, so it already supports Bitcoin, Ethereum, and technologically can support Solana or any other public blockchain. So even when we use cryptocurrency more than fiat currency, a Creditcoin will still be useful.
You said that you don't see the world moving to a place where cryptocurrency will be the sole currency that people use day to day. Why do you say that? Isn't cryptocurrency designed to take over fiat?
It's kind of like, so dollar is designed, if I claim that dollar is designed to take over gold is still there and being used for in some places. So I don't think cryptocurrency will eliminate fiat. Cryptocurrency can be a major currency in some aspect or some sector, but I don't think cryptocurrency will be the sole currency.
Interesting. And how do you see the next 10 years for people of the unbanked world? What do you think is going to be their progress in terms of getting them typical financial services? Obviously, you think Creditcoin is going to play a massive part in that. But if we look at their world in 10 years' time, how do you envision it to be like?
I think unbanked or underbanked will use cryptocurrency as their day-to-day way of holding or paying. More so than people in the developed market. So here's my reasoning. So when a mailing system was invented in the United States, people built a technology suited to that fact that, okay, when we are sending information, we do it via mail. And what is that technology? That's traveler's check. So we write something on a paper, and that's how we send money to other people. And when we were developing countries like, for instance, like Japan or South Korea, we didn't really have that mailing system. Actually, we had the mailing system, but we already had a digital system built. So instead of using check, we started building digital transfer. So, for instance, in South Korea, when you want to send somebody money from your bank account to their bank account, it takes like a second, like sending an SMS. Unlike in the US, it takes a couple of days to finish getting settled from your bank account to other person's bank account. And as you already know, if you're living in China, because China was building their financial system after the invention of internet and smartphone, everybody is paying with things like Alipay or WeChat Pay instead of even using a bank account. And if you move further back to emerging markets like Africa, there are no legacy systems. So everyone is building from ground up. And the cheapest way to keep a perfect ledger today is blockchain. So people will build a lot of blockchain-based financial technology. And therefore, I believe a lot of most people will end up using some sort of crypto wallet and cryptocurrencies.
So if that's the case, then Creditcoin will have to do more than just keep credit histories, right? Because they'll be using cryptocurrency. It will be stored on a ledger.
We don't aim to solve every problem. We will focus on solving what Creditcoin's objective was, which is allowing people to build credit profile on a blockchain when they're using cryptocurrencies and other type of blockchains. And I think, for instance, to use cryptocurrency as a money, things like stablecoin or CBDC or maybe Bitcoin, Lightning, Tether or Solana, whatever will be the one people will use. Creditcoin itself wasn't really designed to be a stable currency. So I don't think Creditcoin will be particularly used as a currency. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? This is the open source and this is an open network, so anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think your thinking it's really good. I can see Creditcoin, for example, with building this credit history for those who are unbanked, and then somehow, being sort of that link between, say, real world and code-based lending. Because at the moment, say you go on Aave, you deposit assets as collateral and then you can take out a loan. So this is like an over-collateralized loan. But at the end of the day, the world has to revolve around faith-based loans. So you're trying to start up a company. You don't have any capital. So you want somebody to lend you money so that you can start up this business or whatever. And I can see a space where Creditcoin basically is able to dominate that, because it's something that's all about building up that credit faith so that people can lend and borrow. Obviously, I don't know how that's going to look like, but I do think it's a very interesting space.
I think NFT is kind of similar in a way. So especially when people buy NFT avatars, they're essentially creating a digital version of their face, right? They're creating their personal brand around it. And whatever they do under that face will be associated to that face from then on. So it's kind of like building a brand. Building your credit history on Creditcoin is kind of like that. So whatever you start to do under your address is financial version of you. So it will last forever, and therefore you should take care of it. You don't want to screw it, because unlike opening up a new bank account, if you screw up on Creditcoin, then it's gonna stay there forever.
I see. So Creditcoin could you say it's optional? Like, say you're an unbanked person, you're building your credit identity. So you have to be very pristine about it, right? You can't, any risk you have of damaging that reputation is not one you want to
Exactly.
take.
So let's say you have a girlfriend and you cheat on her, then you screwed up. There's no way going back from there, right? So if you miss your payment, then you screwed up. And maybe like missing your payment is not as bad as cheating on your girlfriend or your wife, but it lasts forever. They will never forget it.
I see. So that, I guess that would make, you're basically trying to make people more honorable.
Exactly. So let's say you have a very good relationship with your partner for, let's say, like 4 or 5 years. You've been wining and dining them, and you've been really nice to them, and they've been nice to you. You probably don't want to screw that up easily, right? The relationship that you built up so far is very valuable, and you will take care of it. Your credit profile or your credit identity is sort of like that. If you have been paying everything on time for like 4 or 5 years, maybe even 10 years, because your credit transaction can last for like dozens of years, you don't want to screw it up. You want to take care of it. You want to make sure you have a pristine credit identity so you can get the value of it. Because if you have a really nice credit history, you can get a loan from a bank at a very low rate, and that is also valuable. That's how you finance your business. That's how you finance your day-to-day life, and that's how you get mortgage and whatnot. So it is something very valuable.
I guess this could be also quite useful for supply chains. So, for example, you're trying to collect money from someone who buys a lot of goods from you. And obviously, the way these things work is a lot of big buyers, they will pay, later. They don't pay on time. They don't pay as soon as they receive the goods or whatever.
Exactly.
and it's quite difficult to keep track of all of these account receivables.
Exactly.
It's a very arduous thing. So I could see Creditcoin in that use case as well, where you are basically using Creditcoin to help you collect money for receivables and for payables.
Yeah, as a business, your reputation matters too, right? If you pay things on time, then other people will do business with you. If you have a reputation that you never honor your invoice or never pay things in time, then people are less likely to do business with you. So that is also valuable for your business.
Is that an avenue you guys are looking at?
Absolutely. Because our network is not for individuals only. It is for anyone, institutions, individuals, businesses. So everyone will be on top of our network, building their own version of credit history.
Wow. Thank you, Tae, for telling us your thoughts about getting financial services to the unbanked and how you see the future of how we can modernize our current accounting systems with not only those who are living in the developing world, but also those living in, the developed world doing business with each other. Now, before I leave this podcast, I have one question I would like to ask you, Tae. That question is, apart from the space you're working in, which is credit history, what do you think is going to be the next big wave for cryptocurrency in the next 2 to 3 years? Now, last year, DeFi was very big, and then we had the NFT phase. And now I guess we're looking at gaming metaverse, although it kind of all fits into the same space. In 2-3 years time, or even in the next year, what do you think is going to be the big wave that people should be looking out for?
I think the next big wave will be how are we going to connect working blockchains together. So interoperability will be the next phase of our market, I think. And there are a couple of projects that we are building in-house currently, trying to enhance our version of interoperability also. And essentially, this is my idea. So summary is, Bitcoin works, Ethereum works, Solana works, a couple of other blockchain gonna work. And when we have a couple of websites that works, you want to link to each other, bringing traffic from one website to the other. And how is that going to work? We don't have a standardized way to do it yet, but that has to be solved. Unless that's solved, everything has to meet in a centralized exchange. I think we can do better than that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Tae, for your great insights. Before I leave, do you want to give a shout out to your socials, and could you tell the audience where to find it?
Oh, right.
Creditcoin, Gluwa, and everything.
You can find us at, for Creditcoin, it's at Creditcoin, Credit and Coin. Gluwa is at GLUWA. You can follow me on Twitter at TAELIMOH.
Perfect. I'll have all of those details in the show notes below. Tae, thank you so much for being part of this podcast, and we will see you all next episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.